Better thinking, faster decisions, bigger ROI. This is the Finding 12 Minutes podcast. The idea is simple. If you can find 12 minutes of efficiency in your day, you will gain an hour every week. And that changes how you work. Each episode is focused on practical ways to use AI, technology, and smarter strategies to help you move faster, think clearer, and get more done with less effort. So let's find your 12 minutes. Most AI conversations start with the tool. Which model should we use? Which platform should we buy? Should we use ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, Gemini, or use AI that's embedded into an existing product that we're already using? And while those are useful questions, they're not the whole concept of change when we think about organizational change. Because an AI tool can technically be impressive when you use it, it could still fail within any organization. It can generate useful outputs and still not be adopted by your teams and your organizations and your departments. It can save time for one person, yet still create confusion within your organization. That's why change management matters. In the last episode, we looked at the ADKAR framework model and the human side of technology adoption. In this episode, we're going to go one level wider and we're going to look at organizational systems around AI, which brings us to McKinsey's 7S model. So what is the 7S model? Well, it's really 7 areas that all start with S. And so the McKinsey 7S model looks at the 7 parts of the organization that need to work together. And those 7 are strategy, structure, systems, skills, staff, style, and shared values. Some of these are easy to see. Strategy is the plan. Structure is how people are organized. And systems are workflows, tools, or processes that people use. The harder ones to see are often the most important, though. Skills are what people can actually do. The staff is, whether you have the right people involved. And the style really goes back down to the leaders and how they behave. Shared values, the final S, are what the organization truly rewards and tolerates and believes when it comes to that kind of change. So for AI, this matters most because failed AI rollouts are not caused by one missing piece. They're caused usually by misalignment between several pieces. Strategy says we want innovation. Systems say we use the same approval processes as we did before. Leaders say we want you to experiment. Culture says do not make mistakes. Training says here's the tool. And all the employee hears is good luck. So this is not adoption. This is really creating friction. So if we look at the 7S model through an AI lens, let's translate each S into an AI implementation question. Strategy questions could be, are we using AI here? Are we saving time? Are we improving quality? Are we reducing risk? Are we increasing speed? Or are we creating better customer experiences? Where structure may ask questions like, who owns this? Is it IT, operations, products, marketing, legal? Is there a cross-functional team? If everyone owns it, then no one really owns it. Systems tend to ask questions like, where does AI actually live within the workflow? Is it embedded into the tools that people are already using? Is it another tab, another login, another subscription, another disconnected process? And that's a challenge in and of itself. Skills tend to ask, do people know how to use the tool well enough to get value out of it? Do they understand prompting and validation and data privacy and review standards and escalations? When you go back down to staff, who needs to be involved for the change to work? Not just the technical team. You got to think users, managers, legal, the security team, IT, customer-facing teams, and support. So when we get to style then, what are the leaders modeling? Are they using AI themselves? We always think about the top-down approach, but are they using AI themselves? Are they encouraging experimentation? Or are they quietly signaling that the old way is still safer? And then finally, if we look at shared values, what does the organization actually believe about AI? Is AI seen as a shortcut? Is it seen as a threat? Is it a toy, something that we play with? It's something that sits on the fringe? Is it a compliance risk? Or is it a serious productivity partner? When you ask these questions, you start to see that the tool alone is never enough. So how does this 7S framework kind of fit into the whole concept of finding 12 minutes? Well, the finding 12-minute framework starts with small measurable improvements. Find one repetitive task, save time, measure the impact, build confidence, and then scale. That pattern is central to this whole approach. Start with a task, start in a small way, measure the before and after, and use the evidence to expand. The 7S model fits when you use it as a diagnostic and not as a bureaucracy. For example, suppose the team wants to use AI to summarize client meeting notes, draft follow-up emails. That sounds simple. It could easily save 12 minutes per day. But before you roll it out, you do a quick 7S check, right? So you start with strategy. Is the goal faster follow-up, better consistency, or both? From a structure perspective, who reviews the AI-generated message before it goes out? From a systems perspective, does that connect to the CRM? Does it connect to your email? How about your project management tool, project status tool? Does it connect to any of those other tools? Does it live within those other tools? From a skills perspective, does the team know how to review the output for accuracy and tone? From a staff perspective, who needs access? Is it project managers? Is it sales? Is it marketing? Is it the executives? Is it who needs access to that? From a style perspective, managers need to encouraging this behavior, or are they rewarding manual effort, right? So does it matter whether it's done using the tool or not? Is the effort just being rewarded regardless of the tool? So are the managers, encouraging this behavior? And then finally, from a shared values perspective, does the team value speed, or does it quietly equate manual work with quality? That is not a 6-week assessment. That is a 12-minute conversation. And that's the point. The 7S model helps you see the system. The 12-minute framework keeps you from overcomplicating from the start. So what are the benefits for AI product management, product development? For product managers, the 7S model is especially useful because AI products are not only features, they often change behavior. If you are building AI-enabled product, you have to think beyond functionality. You need to understand the adoption conditions, how people are going to adopt things. Strategy helps clarify the product promise, the problem we're solving, and how we know AI is going to create value. The structure helps clarify ownership. Who owns the model, the workflow, the customer experience, and the risk review? And more importantly, the feedback loop. Systems help clarify integration. If the AI output does not appear where the user is already doing work, adoption will suffer. Disjointed processes, right, are going to basically make the whole system suffer. Skills often help clarify enablement. Users may need to learn how to ask better questions, interpret AI outputs, and know when to override the system. This goes back to that concept of human in the loop, right? The human needs to know, the staff needs to know, the workers need to know when to use and not use AI. Style helps clarify leadership behaviors. If leaders want AI adoption, but punish mistakes harshly, people will avoid experimentation. We have to have that free reign to be able to experiment in a safe and more risk-free manner, but experimentation is key to the whole thing. And then finally, from a shared values perspective, shared values help clarify trust. Users need to understand whether AI is there to replace judgment or support better judgment. This is why the 7S is valuable in product development. It pushes the product team to think about the ecosystem and not just the interface. So the one question that I have is 7S overkill? And I think sometimes yes. The full 7S analysis can be overkill for many organizations, particularly smaller organizations. Early stage pilots and even low risk productivity use cases, you may have a full-blown framework or process for something that does not need this many steps and this much analysis. It is noted that there are several limitations of this particular model, including that it can be complex. It may lack, this whole concept of being able to create prioritization, and can be less suited to rapidly changing environments. So this is not primarily a people-centric process. So you have to kind of keep that in mind. And that critique matters for AI because the AI work often moves quickly. We want to move faster. So if you are in an environment where you're constantly experimenting, you're constantly changing, this particular model may not be best suited for what you're trying to do. So if your team spends 2 months analyzing 7 categories before trying to upload or update a simple workflow or create a simple workflow improvement, you may have missed the point. So not every AI use case needs an enterprise alignment model. If one person wants to use AI to draft a weekly status update, you don't need to run a whole 7S workshop. If a small team wants to use AI to summarize meeting notes, you do not need to create a transformation office. If a product manager wants to test whether an AI assistant improves onboarding, you do not need to turn the pilot into a governance maze. Use the smallest framework that helps reduce the risk and increase adoption. The model becomes useful when the change crosses teams, it changes roles, it affects customers, it's introducing risk, or requires really sustained behavior change across your whole organization. So that kind of leads into this, this practical alternatives. Like, so if you're not going to use 7S, what else could you use? So for most organizations, I wouldn't start with the full 7S model. I would start with the lighter version. One option is, focus on 3 S's for AI check: strategy, systems, and skills. You don't need to do all 7, just focus on those particular 3. When you think about strategy, what is the outcome? When you're thinking about systems, how does that fit into the workflow? And then from a skills perspective, what do people need to know to use it well? And that's enough for many pilots. Another option is go back to the previous episode and think about the ADKAR, especially when the main challenge is human adoption, right? So the whole concept of awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement may help explain whether individuals are ready to change. And that works well when the tool already exists, but the people aren't using it. Another option is to pilot Canvas: problem, user, workflow, risk, metrics, owner, next step. Pretty straightforward. And this is probably the most practical tool for a 12-minute AI use case framework. So, but for product teams, we do the basics. We know these are frameworks we used before. So you could always add a RACI chart that helps, really kind of define ownership when ownership is unclear. AI initiatives often stall because no one knows who decides, who reviews, who approves, and who supports the change. The key is not to worship the framework. The key is to pick the framework that creates movement. We got to get from words to action. How do we create movement? So wrapping up this episode, the 7S model is not always the answer to every AI problem that you're trying to solve for, but it is a useful reminder that AI adoption does not happen in isolation. A tool lives inside a workflow lives inside a team, and a team lives inside a culture. And a culture is shaped by what leaders reward and what the systems reinforce, and ultimately what people believe is safe. So to use the 7S as a mirror, use it to spot misalignment. Do not let the model become the work. Find one AI use case, ask 7 questions quickly, identify the biggest point of friction, fix it, and then measure the result. And that's how the 7S model fits into this whole concept of finding 12 minutes. It's not as a massive transformational exercise, as a fast alignment check for small changes that will stick. Well, that's your 12 minutes. If you found value in this, share it with someone who needs to work smarter but not harder. And remember, small efficiencies compound. Find 12 minutes a day and the results will take care of themselves. I'll see you in the next episode.